Elder Scrolls Online is a complex game, and I think it's a good game. And there are quite a few reasons why it is a good game. Reasons that we discussed in the previous video that you can check right here or in the description down below. But it's not a perfect game, and not perfect games have a lot of bad sides. And yeah, in this video we're going to be discussing why Elder Scrolls Online is bad. And yeah, there are some serious reasons why this game is bad. So let's discuss that. Reason number one is that the game is too easy, at least for the most. Game is supposed to be MMO, and MMO content is not supposed to be easy. You're supposed to be seeing a challenge, and you're supposed to be, well, afraid to go to some territories in this fear of dying. Here, they're not. Overworld content, the content that is not an instance-based, I mean like dungeons and trials and things like that, everything else like overworld content is extremely simple. You will be cheesing through everything no matter how good you are in the game. And you don't need to be great. All you need to be is just good enough. And you don't need to be focusing on a lot of gear. All you need to have is just appropriate level gear. And you can just cheese through everything. Almost nothing in the game poses any challenge. And I'm talking about solo experience. It's even easier in a group because in group content, enemies do not scale up. They just stay the same. You just deal double the damage if there are 2 of you, or quadruple the damage if there are 4 of you. The only thing in the game that is probably challenging for the solo players, at least in the beginning, will be the world bosses. But eventually you're gonna grow powerful enough to even solo them. Yes, soloing world bosses is not an easy task, but you will be able to do that. And MMO that is too easy is not the great news. At least not for the hardcore players. It's a good news for casual players, but not for the hardcore ones. Next thing that is, well, issue for me that we actually discussed in a good part, but it's actually have a bad parts as well, it's the fragmentation of the quest lines. You see when I said in the previous video that that game has a zone quest lines, well, in reality, they don't. Well, but they do, but usually zone quest lines are part of some larger quest lines. For example, in most cases in a base game, it's a part of faction quest lines, meaning that there is a distinct beginning in a quest line and distinct end. But you see, if you just go and level up in any zone that you want, you might start this questline in the middle, not knowing what was happening before. And you might see a lot of references and you might see a lot of characters that you should have met before in the previous zones that you skipped, but now you have just no idea who they are. And then you will go back to the previous zones that you should have done before, and now you will meet people that you already met for the first time, which is kind of like immersion break. I would probably prefer to have more linear progression, at least through the faction questline, meaning that you cannot play one faction questline until you complete the previous one. But yeah, that was a problem for me. The issue number 3, and probably this is the big one, is that there are no compelling rewards in the game. You see, when you play the game, you complete the quests, you complete the guild missions, you complete a lot of different things. You must receive some cool stuff, right? And I'm not talking only about the gear. I'm talking like, for example, different skins and different looks and things like that. You do receive those in a game, but you receive a very few of them. And probably the biggest issue is that you don't receive practically any mounts in overall content or just by doing or questing or by anything. You don't receive a good rewards. The rewards are very bad and very few and far between. All the best thing that we probably can receive is maybe a little bit of XP boost. Yeah, it's quite in abundance. You are receiving quite a lot. So if you're playing through different multiple faction quests, you probably have XP boost running all the time, which is good, but that's it. You might receive some okay weapons, you might receive some okay armor, still not as good as just farming for weapons and armors like the world bosses or dungeons or delves or things like that. But yeah, rewards are not that great, which is bad because, well, MMO is all about the rewards, all about showing how cool you are, all about showing others that you actually completed the things that others have not completed and like showing yourself off. But you cannot do it here because you don't have it here. You know why? Because the best things in the game is hidden behind a paywall. That's just what it is. Best zones are behind a paywall, meaning the DLC zones. Best guilds are behind the paywalls like Dark Brotherhood and Thieves Guild. Best dungeons are behind a paywall, which you can get only by getting DLCs or subscribing to SO Plus, or through new expansions, of course. Best rewards, best skins are behind a paywall, and of course, mounts are behind a paywall, or rather gambling paywall. And of course, best houses are behind a paywall, meaning that you need to pay up if you want to get the best things. And no matter how great you are, no matter how much you play, you will not be able to get those best things. Yes, none of those things actually affect the gameplay. That's a fact, except for one thing, which we're going to talk about in a second. None of those affect the gameplay, and all of those are cosmetic. But yeah, end game is a cosmetic. But yeah, cosmetics is an end game. When you get very far in the game, you want to show off, and you cannot do that, which is a huge shame. And speaking of one pay-to-win thing, crafting bag. Don't get me wrong. First thing that I want to say, game has amazing crafting. It is beautiful crafting system, and I love it. It is one of the probably best crafting systems in any games. But game has very limited storage and very limited bank storage. And it has a lot of different crafting materials. I mean, hundreds and upon hundreds of them. And they don't stack up very well, meaning that you probably need multiple stacks of the same item. So you might need hundreds of, and maybe even thousands of different slots for your, well, crafting gear. You don't have those. You simply cannot do that. The easiest, the best option would be to just spread your crafting materials between the different characters. Or you can pay $15 a month for ESO Plus and get an infinite crafting bag, which can store infinite amount of materials. That's the only thing in the game that is pay to win, which I simply hate. It should be in the game. It should be in the game, or at least you should be able to buy it. One-time buying just to have it, but you can't. You need to subscribe for it. But probably the worst offender of them all is the loot crates. Loot crates are, well, the type of loot boxes, and it is probably the most predatory loot boxes in any media. Yes, I mean any media, gamings, and even worse than mobile games. And loot crates are containing the best things in the game, the best cosmetics, and most importantly, mounts. The best mounts, including the Radiant mounts. But even if you're gonna willing to pay up, good luck getting anything great for them, because the drop rates are abysmal, and most of the things that you are getting is complete crap. And you will need to spend hundreds of dollars to get all the things that you want from a loot crate. Hundreds. And the loot crates are being updated once every few months. So you're gonna be paying thousands of dollars if you want everything, which is complete BS. Even if you're willing to pay money for this game, paying that much is a complete BS. And yes, all of the rare mounts, and probably like 95% of all the mounts, are hidden behind the loot crates. And yes, from now and then, you can buy it separately, but usually not the Radiant ones, the crappy ones. And you can actually, grind for the resources to buy the Radiant mounts without actually paying up the money. But in order to buy only single one of them, you actually need to grind up for months, if not years. And by the time you grind up for the mount that you want, this mount is already gone from the store and replaced by something else, and something else that you probably won't want. Oh, and it gets even better. If you're into housing, good luck, because the best houses are, of course, hidden behind a paywall. You need to pay up to $100 just to get a good house. And yeah, if you're gonna get it, good luck with that as well, because you either gonna pay far more if you want to get a decorated house, or you're gonna pay up more to get a good decorations for this house. Because there are quite a lot of different decorations available through crafting, but again, the best ones are available only through the Crown Store. We talked about monetization being too easy, but that's not all. The technical issues in the game is making it practically impossible for the most. And by technical, I don't mean that it's lagging or it's freezing. I mean the devs are actively, trying to make the game worse. And the first thing that we're going to talk about are inconsistent nerfs and buffs. Because when the new content is released and when you are starting grinding for different gear and just get the best thing that you can, by the time you already get it, it will most likely be nerfed or be nerfed in a few weeks, in the best case scenario. And then you need to go and grind for that next thing. And by the time you get the next thing, it's probably most likely nerfed already. And then for the next thing, and for the next thing, and for the next thing, and you are in a constant state of grind, which is insanely boring. And you will never be able to get a good gear set, because by the time you get a good gear set, it will be obsolete already, or will be obsolete in a few weeks. I don't know what's happening with them, why they cannot make up their mind. And that's I'm talking about the gears for the most highest levels, not for the average gamers. I'm talking about the actual veteran players who are actually willing to spend the time for the good things. But now they are forced to do that. And another issue is that with the PvP. PvP is completely abandoned. It's like nobody cares about PvP, especially in a Curator, because it runs like crap. Good luck if you're gonna get there in a peak times, because it's absolutely abysmal and trash. It lags like crazy. You're gonna get constant freeze, stutters, lags, and you will not be able to play it. Not play it comfortably. You will not be able to play it, no matter how big and powerful computer you have. And good luck, especially if you're on a console. And also, there is the technical issues with the dungeons and trials as well. Well, first things first, there is no trial finder. You need to actually find people to get to trial like an old school way. Yep, sounds fun for some, but not for others. And even in Dungeon Finder, this thing doesn't work for some reason. It did work a few years back when I was playing it. It worked pretty well, but for some reason now, you need a few tries to actually get into dungeons, which is weird. And I'm not talking about getting with the DPS, because it's more difficult to get to in the dungeons with the DPS. Trying to get to dungeons with a tank or a healer, but even then I have some issues. What issues? Well, first things first, you might get stuck and not find the dungeons ever. It just gets stuck and you're in a queue, and all that you can do is just re-queue again, and maybe you can get there. Then sometimes when you get there, you're gonna be there alone, completely without other people. Well, what type of group finder it is if you're alone? sometimes it's gonna show you that your group members are there, but they're offline, and you're still alone. And BS like that just does not make you want to play a dungeon, which is huge. Overall, do I think that Elder Scrolls Online is a bad game? No, I do not. Elder Scrolls Online is a good game if you are an Elder Scrolls fan and if you are a casual gamer. But if you are a serious MMO gamer, which is the backbone of every MMO, well, it's not. You can go there, have some fun, complete all the stuff that you want, and just move on to that other MMO. That's it. There is no point in grinding the best gear. There is no point on just go and insane grinds and trials, because there is no point in that. It's gonna be nerfed anyways. There's no point in grinding different characters, different new characters for their abilities, because there is no point. But they're gonna be nerfed anyways. And something that you didn't pay attention or didn't enjoy to play, gonna get buffed anyways. So yeah, that's a bad thing about the game. But I still think that it's a good game if you are a casual player and love lore. And yeah, if you want to know all about the good parts of the game, you can watch the other video right here on the description below. But is there a chance for the game to get fixed? I think there is, but that's a topic for another video. Well, this is me for today. Thanks for being here with me. Like the video if you like it, subscribe for more videos like this one. I'm gonna see you in the next one. See ya.